it's hard work, but it's not bad work. And I would love not the glamour to come back into growing food, because it's not a glamorous job, but it's certainly a noble thing, and we have to eat.
This week, and really for this fortnight on Dirty Linen, we have been talking about people working in food businesses. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot about is the difficulty of getting workers onto farms, whether it's picking fruit or vegetables, fixing fences, just all the many things that need to happen on farms, particularly at this time of year when produce needs to be picked. It's very time sensitive. So I did a bit of a call out, and I'm super happy that I've come across Nina Meiers, who has a berry farm called Bimbimbi Farm in northeast Victoria. Welcome, Nina. I'm super happy to have you on Dirty Linen today.
Thank you very much, Dani. I have got lots of things to think about and talk about, so I'm happy to share what I can of my perception of this situation.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, first of all, set the scene for us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your husband and about Bimbimbi Farm.
Well, I think I could be called the accidental farmer. I'm 60, and a few years ago, everyone knows the Monash Freeway, don't they? I mean, if you travel around in Victoria, you know the Monash car park. And my husband is a tradie. He was a tradie, and he said one day he's sitting in traffic for sometimes 3.5 hours a day. And he came home and he just said, "Look, I'm sick of this." His brothers are very successful farmers in northeast Queensland. They're very big passion fruit growers. And he said, "I'd like to be a farmer before I get too old." He's a few years younger than me. We've been together 33 years now. And I said, "Oh, how hard is it?" "Sure, I got YouTube. I'm a technology person." And so we ended up selling all our little house and our investment place. And he promised me this lovely old farm with the picturesque things. You sit out in the veranda and you look at the beautiful trees. And anyway, that didn't exist. So we ended up buying a bare-ass block of land, no power, no water, no infrastructure. And apparently it wasn't windy the day we bought it, but it's been windy ever since. And so we live in a 6-kilometre wide wind tunnel. And we set up all the infrastructure, and I was able to port my business from web developing, which I've done since 1996. I told my clients, "Oh, I'm going to go farming." And then I had to put, you've got to load things onto your husband. And I said, "Well, I want to be organic. I'm not growing with chemicals." And then I said, "I like strawberries. I'm not happy with onions." And, so I had all these things. I want greenhouses. I want raspberries. And God bless that man. He tried to make me happy. So we have greenhouses, we have raspberries, we have blueberries, and we have strawberries. And the strawberries we are growing at the moment is because predominantly we will be blueberry growers, but you need to have cash flow. So we ended up buying this land and paying a fortune for power and fortune for a bore. I've got a drone and I've got a Thermomix when we got here. And I've droned a lot of my journey, because I found that most people have no idea where food comes from, and I am the perfect person to know where nothing comes from. I'm just a city slicker. So subsequently, we're now 4 years in, completed our certification. We are certified organic, and I don't know why people think it's very, very hard. It is hard, but it's a discipline, and I think if you're not disciplined, there's a lot of things you shouldn't be doing. And I've just tried to be different to other people because I can't compete with the big boys. I don't have the history that all these wonderful farmers have got. I don't have the generational history. I'm growing fruit that is out of the normal band of farming up here. So it's been quite an eye opener.
Wow. I mean, so you started with this vision of a rural idyll. It sounds like it hasn't quite been like that, but you must have learnt so much on this 4-year journey. What are some of the things that really surprised you or shocked you about what you've had to create there?
We can always talk about the money on things because we had a budget. And we've put most of our money into this. So I sacrificed the house. So you can imagine that I had this idea I'd be in a house in the second year. and subsequently now we're deciding, will we build next year? I think what I've learned is the lack of honour in growing food strikes me as being so significant that the food chain, the way we've democratised food, is that food has no value anymore like it used to have. I can remember as a young child, because being 60, I can remember as a young child going with my mother to the supermarket, not to the greengrocer, and saying what we wanted, and he'd pick the apples out and he'd put them in a bag for us, and we'd take them home. And the food bill was at the time, I think the food, when I looked at my stats, was around 30% of the wages. So food had a value. It was expensive, and people valued what they ate. I can remember feeding the horses in Melbourne, the milk horses. I'd give them a jam sandwich. I'd get out there with a jam sandwich once a week. I get milk in my school bottle, milk bottles with that 300 ml bottle with milk in it at morning tea. And the whole thing about food, it has shocked me that people have no idea on the work involved to feed people, and the glamour. There's a glamour on eating your food at a beautiful restaurant, but behind the scenes, the dirty work and the hard work to grow food it's just it's a shame that people don't want to grow food, because it's a diminishing market. Like agriculture used to be a noble thing, and now, unfortunately, I feel it's oh shit, I've got nothing. I've got no work. I have to go and to get a job picking. And I'm thinking, it's hard work, but it's not bad work. And I would love not the glamour to come back into growing food, because it's not a glamorous job, but it's certainly a noble thing, and we have to eat. I think, was it who was it, one of the Marxists, one of these communist leaders said, "You're only 3 meals away from a revolution." That's just right. You've got to eat, and somehow we've just totally trashed it. That's just my view.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in what you're saying. I think we've certainly seen through the pandemic that we've seen the fragility of the supply chains, and we've seen how even a perception of scarcity causes panic. So people somewhere down there, they do value being able to buy the things that they think that they need at the time that they think they need them. So there is a value in that in a negative sense, in that there's panic buying when people feel like they might not be able to go to the shops and get everything on their list. But it's interesting that you spoke about this this devaluing of food as a democratization of food, because normally we would think of democratization as a good thing, that perhaps food becomes more accessible. So can you just sort of tease that out a little bit? Why is this form of democratization a devaluing and a negative?
Because in the end, the people who grow the food, they can't make money. They take shortcuts, or they go out of business. And I've noticed, I'm reading a lot. Like, to me, I'll give just a little bit of an insight. Back in 2007, I remember going to Chadstone, and they'd done some renovations, and I remember standing and looking at the awe of this. I love the shape of Chadstone, that, you go and have a look at the building inside. I remember going there when it opened in 1969 as a young child. I think 1960, it didn't open. That's when I remember seeing Chadstone, the changes. So, but what happened was, I stood there one day and I thought, what are we doing? What is happening? All we've got is stuff. We've got stuff. We're being sold something. And people would buy spend more money on shoes and furniture in the 80s than they did on food. But what happens is, to me, I think that there's a real power play going on here. That big farms now, they buy and buy and buy up things, and in the end, they squeeze out the competition, but they also dominate the market. And I was doing some research, and I found that I think 6 companies in the world own about 86% or something, or 80% of the seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, that's owned by 6 companies in the world. So if you can imagine the amount of food that we need to grow, that you now control the narrative on big people sitting on boards are telling you that how you need to grow your food, and they control. It is like a control. It sounds like I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just looking at the analytics as to why do things happen. I think at the end of everything, to make something, to be able to work out where something is now, often you have to look backwards as to how did we get there. And I think a lot of it is the fact that we have a generation of people who have never suffered in a war. They've never had the pain or the need for unity, and they've never had to band together to survive. And it sounds very primitive, but you can pick up food anywhere. The food may not have value, but you can pick up cheap food anywhere. So the context of what food is has changed. The fact that we're talking about fake meat, and because now the big tech giants, they own a lot of these businesses, that now they want to tell us that meat is bad for us because they control the narrative on meat is not really meat and not really good for you. It's just like, I know it sounds very broad, but I can only look at it from a very small farmer's point of view, that I'm starting a business. I've come in with very little knowledge, and I've come in to do something that I think is better way of farming, smaller, regenerative farming, questioning how we do things. We are so tight on water. We do things efficiently. And the battle that I have, I'm not big enough, that you don't get taken seriously. It couldn't be profitable. All these things that when you go and I think I can see why people don't want to do farming, because the narrative that we're given these days about farming is that it's not worth it. It's just too hard.
Yeah.
So
I think that, I've got so many images going through my mind as you're speaking, and I think one of them, is this massive international machine that is commodity farming. Yeah. And for me, even the fact that ingredients, things that people are going to put into their bodies, are traded, on the futures market. They're traded as commodities, not as foods, is very telling, and it's very disconnected from the purpose of food and the honourable art of growing it. And then I sort of, zoom in, from this big international machine to you on your on your patch of land, which is small, and which you're sort of battling the elements and battling this, I guess, enormous task that you've taken on. But at the same time, you are small in the scheme of things. But what is more satisfying and real than being able to pick a perfect strawberry that somebody can eat? They can taste the sunshine, they can taste the sweetness. I mean, they can really feel connected to you and the labour and commitment that you've put into that strawberry. So I think that is the kind of food that really nourishes.
Yes, there's nourishment in it, but I'm going to be realistic that it's not on the back of some of these little virgins in the field laying down with their little hair nets on and all this stuff, and plucking one at a time. There's a commercial reality to it as well. There's got to be a balance. But I found it odd that these big companies, the go woke, go broke companies, they have got an agenda. They don't employ our young people anymore to do anything. We are sending our children off to university to become social scientists and live all the social engineering type of jobs that we do now are never about doing anything. They're about ideas. You can't, I can put a projection forward to my bank and tell them how awesome my ideas are. But if I can't back it up with facts that I've actually done something, there's no relevance. So we have a generation of people now who are ideas people. They don't actually contribute. And unfortunately, they make decisions. They make decisions for us without actually knowing anything. They've like, I know a lot of people hate Tony Abbott. I wasn't a fan. I'm just explaining. That man in government, you didn't hear about the red tape that he removed so that we could actually get paperwork through things quicker, so that we didn't have to wait 6 months to get something. We could wait 2 weeks. he cut a lot of the red tape. And I was unaware of that.
I mean, let's get concrete and talk about the people that you need to work on your farm this spring, this summer, and let's just explain the situation. Like how hard is it to find people to come and pick strawberries?
Well, we made a decision on Monday that our best crop that we've ever had, because we've had such. I didn't know what good was until this year. I thought good was every year because I wasn't in the city. But now I know when you get the mix right, when you get the nutrition, you get some good weather patterns happening, and we had stunning fruit. We have got tons and tons of fruit on our patch, and we made a decision on Monday. Most of it will go to freezing or thrown out. And the hard part, we get a second crack of this. But if I had something, a lot of farmers won't. We we get backpackers in. So last year, being small, we had only 16 backpackers for the season, and we thought we might need 20 this year. And now you've got to scale this that I am small. So if you can imagine someone with 300 staff that they need, they are in the shit because there is nobody. So we would advertise on Harvest Trail, the government site, last year, and that's non-existent this year. We advertised on Facebook. Got a few things on Facebook, but I was unprepared on how much staff we needed and how urgently, when you've got highly perishable seasonal fruit that has a 6-week span, or it's gone for that flush. And so the government, when COVID came around, the government did do something, and I don't agree with the government in many things, but they were fantastic in setting up this sidekicker product. And one thing I noticed is a lot of people don't educate themselves. A lot of farmers, or a lot of people don't, they look at something at face value, but I thought, I'm going to do the seminars, I'm going to do the webinars, I'm going to get to know this. I need staff. So we advertised a little bit early, and we had 70 people apply in September, but we couldn't take them all because the fruit wasn't ready. Then we advertised again in October, and we advertised on Facebook. I need to have people to pick, but what I realised was I've got 2 backpackers from Italy who are with us, and we'll keep them for the whole season. But my fruit volume was so high that I needed 20 people to be here, and I have 8. So what happens is when you've got perishable fruit, you look at the temperature and you think, is it overcast? Oh, no. Is it sunny? Yep, that's a shit, because you cannot pick the fruit when it's hot. It bruises. Then you let it sit for the day, then it gets scalded, then it gets cooked, and then it sits on top of the other fruit, and then you've got to pick it off and throw it on the ground, or you can't send it off, and then you throw it back down on the ground. And you think, and if you don't clean the plant up because we're organic, the fruit then just obviously, you get mold and disease. You've got to keep around your plants reasonably clean. And so you're paying people with money you don't have on fruit you can't send. And fruit now that is not going to be at the markets for people to actually eat. So the good side is that you actually can get a higher price for your fruit. That's a nice thing to have.
Because you're organic.
Well, yes, for us we're organic, and there's not a lot of people. But even the other strawberry growers with milk, see, we've only got about 35,000 plants. Other people have got millions. That's why you get white fruit, because they're just all about numbers, and we're a different market. So what happens now is that you've got to pay people to pick the fruit or clean the plant up, because if you don't, you will get disease. So you're running in deficit. So if I've got fruit, for example, that I'm getting, if I'm going to process it, I need to make sure they can pick more than I'm paying them, because they cost me, if I work a 9-hour day, they're costing me $243 a day. And if they work on cup day, which they did, they're costing me $46 an hour to pick a strawberry. So you can see the value, right? And sometimes, and then you've got to pack it, okay? That's just picking. Then you've got to pack it. Then I've got to pay for the punnets. Then I'm having trouble getting punnets because there's a shipping strike in Sydney. And now I'm thinking, well, can I get my punnets for next February? Can I actually pack my fruit when I get it picked? I'm going to go to all this trouble and get my pickers and packers. Can I actually get it out the door now? Because there's a strike and there's been a shortage on some punnets.
So a lot of people talk about, a lot of people are saying, okay, if there aren't backpackers, why don't you just employ locals? Can you talk about that?
Look, we've got some couple of great locals in. Because farming is regarded as a shit job, what do you think you're going to get in general when people's attitude is, I can't do anything else, I'll just do that? You get the people who are often, they're not in a good place. And it's sad, really, because we've got a couple of good people now who would like to train up. They're country people. But people have lives. So for me, normally I would get, if I had 15 people here, I've got 15 people working for 88 days and they come and do their work. But I'm now dealing with maybe 25 people to get 8 people. So I've got to do wages for 25 people, of which one's here 1 day, one's here 5 hours. One can't come in, one can work weekends. And then they've got Centrelink, or then they've got, then they've got problems. It's like, all of a sudden I'm Dorothy Dix, and I don't mind it. But my gosh, I'm up to my neck in trying to manage in the first place, and I will never be I will never be a prime minister because I'm going to tell you what I think. You cannot be that person. So I generally don't go out. I don't go out to. No, Nina stays far away, and my husband is the most wonderful man who talks to people, and I generally don't. Sounds dreadful, doesn't it? That's the reality.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like you've got a lot going on, and it's obviously easier if you've got a backpacker that doesn't have any other commitments and they can work the full 8 hours. And yeah, they don't have children to pick up, or they've got, so the working holiday visa holders, if they want to get a second year on their visa, they need to do 88 days in the country, and so that's where a lot of the rural task workforce comes from.
And I don't think that. I hear people saying, "Oh, give it to our locals." I have tried to throw it at our locals, right? Now, and I have to be fair. We are seasonal. We can't ask people, locals. We can't ask a local to go and just say, work here. By the way, it's going to rain tomorrow. Don't come in. It's unfair. It's an unfair expectation. And then to ask people to leave where they're living and move to God knows where, to a place where they charge exorbitant rent because there's nowhere to live and they need an influx of people to do really, like we're an easy farm to work at. We've got trolleys and cover, and we're nice to our staff. And a lot of farms, I hear some horror stories that are not pleasant, and it embarrasses me that this is how some people do business. But whether it's farming or not, there are assholes in business, whatever industry. But you've got to be nice to people when you need them.
Have you got people that would do it? Have you got people that would do it for cash but won't do it on the books?
Yep, we won't pay them, we won't employ them. I'm not in the business to, this is the thing. There's this idea of, look, if I go to the markets and I get some cash in, I might buy my milk and bread, but we put all our money in the bank. We're a business. And I say to people, if you want me to pay you cash, you are asking me to take it out of money I have to declare that I have earned and paid tax on to pay you. But it doesn't work like that. But the job seeker thing is a problem. And I think it's a problem because they need to allow people to earn. If they start working with me and they're on job seeker, it's cut off completely. It puts people in a very vulnerable situation, that they're sort of all of a sudden they're getting not much because, handouts are to keep you on the poverty line, just to manage, barely. And they don't have the security. But if they said, you know what, on job seeker, we're going to let you earn, that was my husband coming in. If we're going to let you earn $200, we've got a screen door now, I'm excited. They're going to let you earn $200 extra a week without affecting your job seeker. Then people might be more inclined to work that there's less risk, maybe. But at the end of the day, we're finding that most of the people who get job seeker don't want to work. They just don't want to work. Why would they? It's a shitty job. It's a dirty job. I can sit at home. I can buy my cheap food. It's got nothing in it, but I can buy it.
How do we solve this? How do we solve this, Nina? Because I suppose there's a few things that are going on. It's like this is a very tricky year because there aren't backpackers around, so it's really hard for you to find enough people to come and pick the fruit. But but it the bigger problem really is what you said at the beginning, which is about farming not being valued and not being seen as a good thing to do.
That's what you have to change, because you can't. And a lot of these things are. It's the same with how people get trapped, I think, into conventional farming, that they get locked in and get taught in agriculture. They get taught that this is what you need to do. They get taught by the big companies who want you to get onto their fertilizer, pesticide, and GMO seed, because that's where they make the money from you. They're embedded in the universities in how we teach. We need to be able to teach people about the value, about why food has value and why it is okay to be a farmer, why it is okay to do the job, and not have this prize that your children should go to university and become data modelers on a reality that doesn't exist. We need a balance, because we do need some big farms. I mean, obviously growing wheat is a bigger, you're not going to do that on my size land, but there is getting more connected actually to the outside. When they have children who have got troubles, they put them out often on farms or with animals or outdoors. They get them grounded and outside and feeling that there's value in doing something. But now I think people get unhappy because they're not really doing anything of actual real value, of tangible value. You grow something, even if you grow your own vegetables. I tell people, grow your own veggies. Grow them yourself. And the value there is you get to see something from the start, and there's a reward. But there's not many rewards in things that are tangible now. They're all visual rewards. That's just my perception. Look.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
Well, I mean, as a web designer, I guess you've been very much in that digital space and creating things that appear on screens, and it's quite a different world now that you've created for yourself.
No, I've had a lot. I talked to you about that, standing in Chadstone and thinking that what's the purpose of all this stuff. I find with technology, it has been a love-hate relationship, because I feel like I'm empowering businesses with the leverage of using technology, but sometimes technology sucks the life out of you, that it doesn't give back in the way. You have to actually, if you're selling something on eBay, you get that money in the bank, but it's the packing of the goods, and it's the shipping of the goods, and it's getting that customer feedback. That's where that's where you get this feeling that you're doing something. And I think with technology, the project I'm working on now, it's called kindharvest.ag, this a network platform for farmers, specifically for farmers. It's given me this wonderful balance between the fact that I've been frustrated with technology and where it's going, and the fact that, I can actually use my evil for good. It sounds so blunt. That sounds so casual, but it's true. Like, I've struggled with it.
It's such a conundrum. You've talked about the you've really produced something when you've grown some food, but then the converse of that, when the system's broken in such a way that food has to rot on the ground and it can't be actually sold and eaten. That just must be a really devastating feeling.
Yes, I'm glad we weren't talking on Monday. I was very sad.
Well, it is really sad. You've put everything into it, and that must be the saddest thing for a farmer, is that the food can't fulfill its purpose, or your labor hasn't fulfilled its purpose, or your investment, and you're losing money at the same time.
Because I don't think people are aware that, like, for us, when you pick a strawberry, we've been working on this particular field since probably sometimes 6 months. Because for us in particular, like, you've got an orchard, and an orchard doesn't just grow the fruit every year. An orchard has to be trimmed and cleaned and pruned and you have to work on the nutrition side of things. Things never happen just overnight. And so I know I've got my husband of saying, look, we can't afford to pay people. Look, we can afford to pay it. We've got to look at it logistically. If it's going to cost me $2,000 or $3,000 in a day for wages or whatever it's going to be, I am not going to. If I can't get that money back and some, then what is the point? But he says, I'll put all this time into it. And it's like, but what is the point if you've got to throw the money away? So there's this you get this anxiety because we've already invested that money in there. Farmers, to me, I think too, it's interesting to note that farmers are often the financiers of so many things, and they pay for everything beforehand before the fruit goes out the door, and then you're told that you have to wait sometimes, even some of these big supermarkets, 45 days. And even to the point where some of the big supermarkets hold your CHEP pallets. And your CHEP pallets, they turn over 30 days, but they don't pull them out of stock until 45, so they get an extra month. There's this like a lot of things in cahoots with others that I find very distasteful, you know. But this is big companies, and we've put ourselves in globalisation we trust, and I am so dead against this globalisation because we need to fix ourselves before we try to fix the world. You know, I don't want to feed the world. I don't want to get told I need to feed the world. I don't want to export. I want to know I grow a great product where I can make some money and employ some people and make a difference, because the risk of even exporting, there's so many things that you're told you should aspire to, but they don't sit well with me. Hence, I spend a lot of time on my own. I spend a lot of time on my own, reading about things.
So, Nina, are you glad that you're there?
Absolutely love it.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any. No, the regret I have is that I didn't apply for organic certification. I thought I should have applied for organic certification a year earlier, because you really only need the land. You didn't need to have to grow anything, but I thought you needed to be growing things. And that's about. No, it's not even a regret. It's, you know, I'm happy where I am with all the difficulties, because I'm 60 and most people are thinking of retiring. And to me, I've just started this wonderful career in educating people about how wonderful, how delicious good food tastes and how good it is for you. The nutrition in our food is far higher because of the nutrition we put into the plant. The plants are healthy. You know, you go in the field and there's something wonderful when you step out and look around you and you think, thank God I don't live in Korea. I don't live in China. I've got choices. So I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. I just throw shit at the fan sometimes. And I just, you throw mud at the wall. You throw mud at the wall and hope some sticks. But sometimes I said the mud this time must go through a high-speed fan. So it's all just shit. It's a mess. And that's just nothing to do with us. But, in 2019, April 2019, we lost all our crop to deer. There was such hot weather, the grass got burnt, the deer moved down from the ranges and came and ate our crop literally overnight. So that finished our season. And we had to then go and buy more fruit, more plants and plant them. And we went into that year with a deficit. On the very first pick that we did on October the 27th last year, we had a hailstorm that came in and we had no fruit at all. It got completely wrecked by a hailstorm. On top of that, we then had the bushfires. Now we weren't in the bushfire area. We were in the area of the smoke. So for 8 weeks we had no sunshine. So we had no fruit growing. And when we finally got fruit to grow, we had 130 mil of rain in a week or something. So I learned, you think, shit happens. And this year, it's just an unexpected thing because we're not planning on having a staff shortage. That's the part that I think hits a lot of people. They're just not expecting a staff shortage when you had the backpackers to help you. I don't know how many farmers have ever had this bad a situation. I have got people who've rung me up and offered to work for me for $40 an hour, though. That's nice. They said, you need us urgently. I'm broke. I'm from Vanuatu, or was it? And I need work, but I will work for you for $40 an hour. Me and my friends will come up. And it's like, no, you won't.
And what would the normal hourly rate be?
It's 24, but including super, it's $27. $24.80 is the casual rate. So,
yeah. So you're not in a position to pay anyone $40 an hour?
It's not worth it. It's not a bloody mind thing. I mean, like we just couldn't. You can't make some things viable because you don't know how much someone's going to pick. We pay for bad people here. We pay because we pay by the hour. Most places, a lot of places, pay by piece rate, and they're really struggling because if you've got to work hard to get your money. We just want you just to turn up and work reasonably well. We're not even a high bar thing. I make biscuits sometimes.
That sounds like a very good inducement. Nina, it's really, you've given me so much food for thought. You've definitely made me feel like eating a number of punnets of your strawberries. I hope that you are able to find enough staff to pick the next flush that comes through. I wish you fine weather, no deer, and willing, skilled workers to get you through. But thank you so much for sharing the news from Bimbimbi Farm. Really great to have you on the show.
It's been a pleasure, and I know it's been a lot of different thinking approach, but this is just my observation from coming in as a new farmer, and I just would love to see more people take that plunge and just grow some fantastic food because it's wonderful conversations you have around food. It's always about the social aspect of eating a great meal with friends. There you go. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.